Hello everyone, it's Ted here. Welcome back to another video here on SkinClub. First things first, big shout out to SkinClub. Make sure you go and check out the Pick'ems challenge, which might be out by the time that you're watching this video. It might not be. If it's not out, make sure to stay tuned because very soon the Pick'em challenge will be unlocked and you'll be able to compete for various prizes and a lot of cool things. And it's completely free. It's always been completely free here on SkinClub to do your Pick'ems. And then if you get enough right, you can get some cool skins and prizes. So without further ado, let's get into today's video, which is going to be a little bit more analytical, not too analytical. It's going to be me talking about a team, talking about sharing my opinion on how a team is playing. And as now we're entering the major cycle, I guess, I'm going to be focusing the attention of the majority of the articles and the videos towards teams and players that will be in Budapest, the StarLadder Budapest Major, starting on the 24th of November. So there really isn't a lot of time between now and then, and we're going to try and focus on some of the more interesting storylines. And as you know me, I'm a connoisseur of Tier 2 Counter-Strike, so I'll be talking about the guys that are not usually the ones to be discussed the most, and I'm gonna be presenting to some of the cooler details and cooler things in general to be wary of going into the major if maybe you're watching some of the teams that you're not really used to seeing in tier 2 or tier 1 Counter-Strike at all times. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, as you can see, today we're going to be talking about Fnatic. And the reason we're going to be talking about Fnatic is because I find Fnatic to be, as much as it's a bit of a chaotic project right now, and obviously there's a lot going on, and not all of it is great with all the roster changes in the last second and the interviews. I think Fnatic and the Counter-Strike that they play are pretty underrated. Now, by that, I mean that the team in general has good game plans. I feel like the team is playing intelligent Counter-Strike. They're pretty creative, pretty crafty, pretty wary of what they're doing. So they're trying their best to make sure that they change stuff up. And well, I'm going to give you some clear examples of all of those statements. Don't worry. This is not just me telling you a bunch of stuff and expecting you to believe without showing. I will show you some of it. But yeah, I think Fnatic is one of the exciting teams actually going into stage 1 of the major where they will be competing. Obviously, PGO Masters Bucharest didn't go perfectly for them. CS Asia Championship, I think, was alright because they still beat Pain. They beat Tyler in 2-0 fashion. They got a map off of Heroic. They got a map off of 3D Max. PGO Masters Bucharest was a tough one, right? They kick things off against Aurora on day 1. They get 14 rounds on Mirage, which I think is pretty solid against Aurora, even though all of us know what was the state of Aurora throughout this event, even though they ended up winning it in the end. There wasn't all perfect throughout the competition. So yeah, maybe not the most reputable face of Aurora, but definitely still a good result for the side of Fnatic. We saw a good individual level coming out of Blame F, and that's always a positive. The rest, no one really stepping up in this game. Then you move into the matchup against FlyQuest. And this one, I just want to say, slow starts just screwed Fnatic up. On both those maps, on Inferno and on Mirage, they needed such a long time to get going. And again, Blame F was an absolute beast. The rest, massive issues individually to actually put up with the firepower. And the reason that I'm actually putting so much time into emphasizing on how much Blame F is trying to carry the show and how much the others are struggling in comparison to him is because this is going to be connected to a point I'm going to be making later on in the video. So make sure you remember all of that. Blame F here, everybody else below. And that was the case in the previous series as well. Then you're moving into the game against MIBR. That was the only very good game out of Fnatic in Bucharest. A 13-3 on Inferno, a 13-5 on Mirage, another Mirage pick. This time they started off 9-3, 9-3. They closed it out cleanly. Blame F, once again, phenomenal. 2.11, 14-18, plus 10.56% swing, which is out of this world. The others doing an alright job, nothing spectacular. Crims actually had a bonkers game. Crims was very good. I think especially on Mirage, I remembered a lot of high impact rounds out of him, but I guess both maps were equally good. So it's nice to see someone supporting Blame F, but probably not the person that you'd want to see shine outside of him, right? You'd probably be looking at someone like Fear, Jambo, Jacasmo, predominantly Jambo and Jacasmo, obviously, but those are the two guys that you're looking at. Not this guy. Crims is supposed to be a support. He's a legend. He's still good to some level, but yeah, that was all I know. It was just a great game out of Fnatic, and then comes in the one against Gamer Legion. A pretty similar story, I guess you could say. Train, they get 4 rounds on the T side, which I want to say was alright. And I don't really know how they let that train slip, because they did have the lead. They had an 11-8 lead on that CT side, and then they just started losing rounds. I think they lost a round against Pistols. They just crumbled. But that was their game for the taking. That wasn't going that badly. BlameF was 5-0 in opening fights, by the way, on this map, which was absolutely crazy for someone like him. And then you go to the overpass, and again, it's a 5-1 start, then something collapses towards the middle stages of the map, and then the second half, they don't really get it going. So, so far, we've identified 2 main patterns when it comes down to Fnatic. First of all, they like their trains and mirages. Second of all, they're a team that either starts really slow, and then by the time they actually get going onto a map, the map is basically over, or they start pretty strong. But then there's a very weird round that they lose either against Pistols or against the Neek or against the half buy or because of some individual mistakes. So all in all, it doesn't feel like Fnatic is playing bad Counter-Strike. And again, you're looking at the individual numbers. This time, for a change, it was actually Crims to be on top of the server. Blame had his worst game of the entire event, which I think at this point you can't really blame him. Fear had a really tough day in the office. 3 kills on train, 5 kills or 7 kills, sorry, on overpass, 5 kills for Jacasmo. So all in all, it was a tough event individually. Now, there was some rumors about some of the players being a little bit ill and not feeling too well during the event. So this has to be put into consideration. It wasn't only Device. I think it was many of the players. So, and from what I've heard, some of the Fnatic boys were affected as well. But we have to kind of ignore all of that, because what are the chances that, let's say, Fnatic were sick but Gamer Legion weren't, right? They were all at the same place. So maybe that was a factor for both teams. So we're kind of staying away from that conversation. We don't want to go there. Bottom line is, what did Fnatic do well? Well, BlameF played like an absolute monster. Fnatic looked pretty creative in some of the rounds. They were starting really slow, and they were losing a lot of rounds that they shouldn't have. Now, this was, and it's worth saying, this was only their second event with Jacasmo and Crims on the same lineup. Jacasmo obviously played for Agadelphia with Cypher, without Crims. Then CS Asia Championship was the first one with this iteration, and now this was the second. So the 0-2s are not a good sign, because obviously you want to be able to win your map picks, and you have a couple maps in the map pool that you should be pretty comfortable on, train primarily, which I think is their best. Going into stage 1 of the major, though, I still believe that, looking at the teams, Fnatic is one of the teams that should be fighting to make it through, and I would consider it a bit of a disappointment if they didn't make it through. So now is the time for me to tell you why I think they're actually a cool team and what are some of the things that I think they're doing well. So for that purpose, we're going to move forward to one of the best maps of Fnatic. We're going to move over to Train. And moving over to Train, I will try and emphasize on some of the very good things about Fnatic. And, well, as we already said, one of the main good things about Fnatic is BlameF. So we're going to try and find out how BlameF is being set up for success on the T side of Train, where I think, honestly, Fnatic is one of the better tier 2 European teams right now. I think they're a pretty crafty team. I'd say the issues with the team are more individual. I think that firepower-wise and maybe individual-wise, they just can't go toe-to-toe with a lot of the teams, which is crazy, because they have BlameF and Jambo and Jacasmo supposed to be bringing in more of that firepower. I guess for him it's a bit of a transition to become kind of like a secondary star, an aggressive lurker in a way, but you're looking at someone like Jambo, and he hasn't really been able to deliver. Blame has been the only one to actually put up consistently good numbers on the board, and I think this is one of the biggest issues. But let's look at a good example. Let's look at what Fnatic are doing. So a lot of the times you're going to see Fnatic use those two smokes. So that's a sandwich smoke, pretty standard. People used to throw that in CSGO as well, although the trains were obviously not positioned like this, but sandwich smoke, pretty standard. And then you've got the lurk smoke, the Olaf lurk smoke for T main, which is a nade that Fnatic uses majority of the time. So what they will try to do this time around is that they'll try and send BlameF because he's got the spawn. BlameF is going to go into that corner in towards mini or in towards main. And the moment that the utility fades away, Blame is just going to walk out in towards that left hand side. Now, you're looking at this play and you're saying, well, this is a massive gamble, right? He's just walking out hoping that no one's watching. The chance here is that Rez is actually here. But Blame is going for that play because they've repetitively conditioned the side of Gamer Legion that they're throwing these smokes round after round after round after round. And a lot of the time when they throw these smokes, there's nothing happening. There is nothing happening. So this is one of the few occasions each game where you will actually see Fnatic send someone after the utility. And mind you, you see a failed Molotov out of fear. Right here. Right here. This is a failed molly. He wanted to molly pop. So they are trying to show some presence in towards that area of the map with utility. It's just the fact that it fails, right? But the idea is still there. So the execution might not be the best, but the idea is there. So you want to molly that, and then you're trying to bait them out that Jacasmo is going to put some aggressive presence in towards Pop, which he does. And this is the moment when BlameF actually walks out. So Jacasmo comes in with a flash, he pushes away Hypex from Pop, and then Blame is going to walk out, he's going to get one, he's going to get a second. At this point, round is pretty much over, he keeps on lurking through the smoke. Unfortunately here, didn't see ZTR on his right, didn't realize what had happened, but BlameF single-handedly wins this round with the timing. He's going to go back, he's going to grab the bomb, and then in the late round, they're actually going to finish B. He's going to plant it. Crimps is going to get the kill. This is one of the examples of BlameF having one of those massive rounds for the side of Fnatic. But you can see the way that there's some kind of an idea to set him up, right? They're trying to put the emphasis towards Jacasmo, and they go for it. And the reason they're doing that, again, we're going to get into that later on, is because Jacasmo has a lot of those plays where they either nade or molly pop, and he's just going to sprint and pick up the fight straight away. We go into the next round, and this is another example of BlameF just carrying through. And this is how they actually close the T side. This is how they win their fourth round here. So they were struggling big time throughout this entire half. And it comes down to this round. They throw the same utility, but notice how this time Blame just challenges straight away. And he's like, well, I've got the spawn. I've got the timing. I know what utility they're throwing. I'm going to sacrifice a portion of my HP. But I will beat every single timing that there is, especially after the previous round. And this is the initiative take inside of BlameF. This is BlameF just being incredibly intelligent. Obviously, there is the nade, which he inhales, and there's the molly that falls right behind him. But he's so quick that he's ahead of the Molotov. So what is going to happen here is that Rez and PR are going to come in. They're going to smoke deep. They're going to molly deep left. They will get flashed in mini or in main, and they will try and fight it. And then Blame just goes ba-bang, kills two of them. Round's pretty much over, and Blame is going to shut down the pop rotation as well. And then I believe he gets the final kills also. This is a 4-piece out of BlameF. So this is a great example of what type of a difference maker BlameF can be. And on a final note, just to close out the gap or close out the topic about BlameF, we're going to look at round number 11 from their game against 3D Max as well. So we've got a pretty similar scenario. Utility comes in. This time around, all of this has the context of 3D Max rarely are trying to put people here in towards this left side of red to actually go close in towards main or in towards main. Most of the time, there's either going to be someone playing E-Box, or they're going to be in towards Sandwich, in towards Ivy. Very rarely, they're coming in here straight away. And again, BlameF recognizing the good spawn he has. This time, he doesn't need the Lurk Smoke. And this is all because, obviously, you're accustomed to the fact that those guys are not going to throw in their mollies early on, because throughout this entire map, or the majority of the map beforehand, they were not mollying insta, because Fnatic were not trying plays like this. And again, you can see when that aggressive play out of BlameF in towards main comes in. It comes in around number 11. So pretty often you will notice when the half is near its end and Blame hasn't attempted those aggressive plays, that he will try and take the initiative. And this time around, he's able to walk inside of the sandwich smoke, which is absolutely massive. It's a little bit fortunate because obviously they just walk out one next to each other with Exorcist, but Blamef turns around, gets the kill, kills the player towards the back of the side, kills another one, and then gets a fort. This is just a massive round out of Blamef, and it's all on the back of a timing, all on the back of the right, very simple play being made in the opportune moment, in the right moment. And all of this is BlameF shooting them. All of this is BlameF taking the initiative, but all of this is as well Fnatic being able to condition their opponents and study the way that their opponents throw the nades in towards main throughout the entire half. So towards the end of the half, they can actually try some of those cheeky timing plays and they can try and get BlameF up close and personal around the smokes when they seem to have a bit of a map on how the CTs approach these situations. So this is a very cool thing that they do. Then we're going to go back in the same map against 3D Max, and we're going to look at how Fnatic can work around with the map. So early on, what you're looking at is, again, a smoke into our sandwich. This one, I'm not sure if that's a glitch on Edge or actually it failed. Might have failed. But we're looking at the smoke. And then what happens is 3D Max is a team that traditionally loves playing for pop control and for brown host control. So you're going to see Maka, Gravity, and Body a lot of the time put pressure. That's one of the bonuses of having Body as your B player. They're going to put a lot of emphasis on this area here. So what are Fnatic doing? How do they react to all of this? So they're starting with double Ivy. And you can see instantly Crim's throwing that deep smoke in towards Ivy. Now remember this one. This is one that Fnatic uses quite a lot. And a lot of teams use quite a lot. It's a really good way to put pressure on Ivy the moment that you realize that the CTs are trying to be aggro somewhere else. And BlameF instantly throws that lurk smoke as well. So what that is doing right now, because obviously Fnatic are aware of that aggressive play because they were close. They spot the smoke, they hear the steps of the pop player running, and they decide instead of contesting, we actually want to put pressure elsewhere and we want to make 3D Max uncomfortable because this is a low buy. This is a force buy. So we don't really need the fight against 3D Max. We can just let them run out of utility. We can put pressure and see how they react. So what happens here? The utility fades. And what Fnatic will do is they will call the bluff. They will say, well, you don't have the utility to hold on to that piece of real estate. We've put pressure in towards Mini. We've put pressure in towards Ivy. We're just going to gather up and we're going to go and retake B right here, right now. They try and do that. They spot two players. The fight breaks down. They use a little bit of util. And then again, Jambo all this time is trying to put pressure here in towards main. He throws another smoke. Now they hear the flash. What do they do after hearing the flash? They just fake a B take. That's the most... That's the best decision that Fnatic could do in this situation. And the reason that we're looking at this round is because it's just really good mid-rounding. The moment that you hear this flashing towards Mini, you've thrown this smoke, they've cleared main, everything for 3D Max is screaming that this is going to be a B play. Especially considering the fact that you were trying to retake B right here just 10 seconds ago. Then you quickly throw in one smoke lower, you can see the rotations coming in. There's 3 players on the B bomb side, and then the A play comes in, 4-man swing out of pop, easy cleanup. It's just a perfect read of the situation and a very good round coming out of the side of Fnatic. Now we're moving into another one. This is going to be round number 5. And again, we're still in that 3D Max game. The reason that we're looking at primarily those games is, well, partially because I think it makes a lot of sense to just look at the most recent maps that we have in order to judge on what to expect out of a team. So we're going into this one, and this is one of the occasions on Fnatic using Jambo for an early opening into towards pop. We were kind of talking about this, if you remember, with him trying to fake his presence so BlameF could walk out of smoke. Now we're going to see why teams are getting faked because Jambo's just so efficient when he does that. So the play breaks in. Notice this time, it's just the Ivy smoke they're throwing, so you want to deny information here. You want to keep the Ivy player engaged. The reason you're throwing this smoke, you're kind of trying to bait this guy to go on the right-hand side or force him here. It's probably best for you if he decides to go here or if he decides to come in here because then you can just run out of pop and you can see the utility to set him up. There's that HE here. and one of them fails again. That was supposed to be a double HE right at the entrance, but still, the first HE, the one that lands, does 29 damage to gravity, and it slows him down. And in the meantime, Jacasmo's just throwing his default util set in towards B. He mollies lower, he smokes upper, he nades lower as well. He eats that nade for 44 damage. But gravity has still been slowed down, and Jacasmo's still close enough to just go for the swing, win the fight, because he's just a good aimer. And from that point on, because of that fight, and because of that early smoke that Crims threw in towards Ivy, 3D Max just don't know what to do. Lucky's rotating back in towards Exorcist. I know this is a round that they win, but we're going to get to that part. He rotates back towards Ivy. They re-clear it. Crims throws another smoke, and here you can see Exorcist. Now he's forced to rotate towards the right side, go through the smoke, and Lucky needs to stay engaged. Maka needs to stay and watch in towards Pop and main. And this is a classical situation of Fnatic might have overcomplicated the situation a little bit. At this point, it feels like it's absolutely perfect for them to go B, right? Body's all alone. Jambo, in the meantime, has just walked out upper. And they don't really know that he's out upper. And now he's going to go for a fight. And this is the big mistake. So Crims, he can look for a fight. That's fine. Jacasmo throws in a fake smoke in towards Ivy. Crims has a fight. He wins it. From that point on, that's a 5 versus 3. This is perfect. Crims gets a kill. Jacasmo throws a smoke. You're making it scream. This is going to be an A play. And Blame was in main all this time, so he knows they haven't pushed. He knows they don't have the information. All they need to do right now is just gather up and play B together and just deal with body. This is the mistake. Jambo decides to play before his teammates are down, before the smoke is faded. Then they need to wait more. Blamef needs to get in position. In the meantime, Crims gets taken down by Makazob. They go out lower. The 3 of them, low HP player gets taken down. Body's just playing the life of his round here. Obviously, credit to him. He's the one that wins them the round. But you can see the way that Fnatic are winning the round for themselves and then losing it straight away because of just one individual deciding not to wait for the pack. But other than that, it felt like everything else was in place. Everything else was perfect. They're just navigating the mid round very, very well. All right, we've got round number 6, which is the next one. And again, we're taking a look at Jacasmo and his pathing. So this round starts, and instantly, what are we noticing? A lot of utility in towards Ivy, a lot of pressure being put there. This time, Jambo is alongside Crims. And again, they're not throwing this lurk smoke, but look at where Gravity is. Gravity's gone very, very aggressive, and he spotted Blame with the bomb. Obviously, Blame doesn't want to give all of that for free, but he doesn't want to lose the bomb. So he's gonna call for a little bit of action. But the moment that you spot Gravity here, you can see how much braver Jacasmo is to go for that fight. He spots out 2 players. He throws in a nade. They disengage. This is a very good round out of 3D Max because they're putting pressure pretty much everywhere on the map. But again, you can see the read coming out of the side of Fnatic. So you put pressure in towards Ivy. Mac is here. He needs to stay engaged. 1 player is pushed main. You don't really know if he's falling back fully or he's staying nearby. Then you spot the push in towards B. The most logical, or in towards Pop from Jacasmo, the most logical thing is for you to group up, go for a B play. You're going into 2 players, but you know those guys, bar the main control, don't really have deep Ivy control. You know one of them will have to stay and watch Pop as well. So you just group up, you go for a B play. Execution is absolutely perfect. You molly Z, molly smoke upper, you flash, you go in, you win the fights, and then they win the 2 versus 1. Another good mid round. Quick decision making. This is the impressive part for me for the side of Fnatic. It's pretty rapid. It feels like there isn't a lot of hesitation. It's kind of like they've got everything pre-planned, which is obviously not the case, but the moment that something happens, they just react almost instantaneously, even though the execution is happening on the 28th second. It's just the ability to actually read through the round and see what is going on. And then the final one that we're going to be taking a look at is round number 8, where, again, we're taking a look at Jacasmo, the way that he's going to open things up. Utility in towards A. You've got the lurk smoke. You've got the sandwich smoke. This time, there's no HEs, by the way, and I'm not sure if they failed. Again, this time they failed the molly again. So this is a bit of an issue for Fnatic. I think it's Jambo throwing a lot of those nades that are not landing. So that's one of the issues. They're failing a lot of the mollies and a lot of the HEs. Into worse Pop. Obviously, those are not easy lineups, but you kind of need to start hitting those if you don't want to screw up Jacasmo. But again, he does a perfect job. Look at how quick he is. He's just ahead of the curve. And because of those smokes, again, they need to be a little bit wary. This time, Crims is a lot more passive because of the few times that he's put a lot of aggressive stances in towards Ivy. So he's expecting them to potentially be two in towards Ivy or try to react. Jacasmo feels like he's got a timing. Minute 35, he's already in pop. Peaks, gets the first kill. He's going to get refrag, but that doesn't really matter. He's done his part. On minute 30, he's been able to take pop dot control, push the CTs away from brown holes, peek out, and kill Maka, who had an AWP, I believe, in this round. Yep. And kill the AWPer. This is a magnificent round out of Jacasmo already. And then until the end of it, it's just Fnatic's business to try and win it. But unfortunately, closing has not been very good for them. So they lose the clutch and they lose the round. But you get the main point. You get the main idea. Fnatic is a pretty creative team on the T side of Train. There's a lot of different ways for them to use, especially that pressure in towards Ivy with the lurk smoke there, the lurk smoke in towards main. They seem to be making good adjustments on the T side. It's just some of the individual mistakes in some of the situations when it doesn't feel like everyone's on the same page that are stopping them. But I really believe that if you're looking at the individual decisions, there's a lot of work to be done. If you're looking at the way that the team, as a team and as a core, reads the room and reacts accordingly to what is going on, I believe that Fnatic is a very adequate team on the T side of Train. And there's a lot of other examples. Unfortunately, we don't want to make this video 5 hours long. So that's going to be it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you are a fan of such, let's say, semi-analytical content as well, where we're looking at rounds, looking at teams and some of the cool stuff that they're doing, you can make sure to let us know. And yeah, I'll keep doing those videos as long as you like them. Thank you for being here. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.